So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Schmelsley. I'm the Director of International Students and Scholars, and we're really happy to have you come join us this afternoon. We can talk about topics of interest and very current issues that you may also have concerns about. I understand in the past that the former director would have town halls on a kind of regular basis. And actually, I think during this time where things are so complicated, immigration changes and COVID-19 concerns and everything else that's going on, that starting next term, we're going to try and have this on a more regular basis. But we're really happy that you could join us today. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce the ISS team who are here and will be the experts to answer the questions as we go along. So Kelly, you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Kelly Hinosawa, and I'm the Associate Director at International Students and Scholars Office. Look forward to speaking with you all today and continuing to working with all of you throughout the end of this quarter and next quarter. Welcome to our town hall.
Jenny?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jenny. I am one of the International Students Advisors, and I welcome all of you guys. Hope you guys get a lot of questions answered today through this town hall. I'm looking forward to meet you guys more in the next quarter.
Thank you. Lenore?
Good afternoon. I'm Lenore Davis, and I work with the scholar side of the office, assisting Makbule Koksal.
Great, thank you. Lisa?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa. I'm also one of the International Student Advisor. Welcome to the town hall. Hope we can answer all your questions today.
Great, thank you. Makbule?
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. This is Makbule Köksal. I'm International Scholar Advisor, and then we are taking care of our international scholars. And if you have any questions and then any issue come up with the related scholar questions, please let us know. We are very happy to the part of the team and then enjoy our webinar today. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jesse?
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm part of the Strategic Initiatives and International Recruitment Office, and I primarily work with the new students and the new initial I-20s.
Okay, thank you. Heidi?
Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Nam. I'm one of the International Student Advisors at the ISS office. We're happy to see you here today, and we hope to get you a lot of great information.
Great, thank you. And I see we have a special guest star joining us today, Jun Wang. I don't know if you want to say hello, Jun, real quick.
Thank you, Michael. This is Jun. I'm the Assistant Provost for International Recruitment and the Strategic Initiatives. I'm here to learn and here to support. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you, Jun. We appreciate your coming. Okay, so today is the town hall. Kelly, would you like to get us started?
Sure, absolutely. So today we are going to go over a few things before we answer the pre-submitted questions that everybody submitted. And I'm going to flip to the next screen, and I'm going to have Jenny talk to you today about our agenda.
All right, so the topics that we're gonna talk about today through this town hall meeting is the California's regional stay-at-home order and California's travel and quarantine advisory, travel restrictions, winter 2021 quarter government guidance, pre-submitted questions, and all other Q&A.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started to talk a little bit about California's recent regional stay-at-home order and travel advisory. California's regional stay-at-home order and travel advisory. So as many of you may know, California and all of Southern California, including Riverside County, has currently been placed on a regional stay-at-home order, which I believe started on Sunday night around 11:59 p.m. And I wanted just to give you some general information about that order. That order really guides those of us who are here in California to stay at home except for essential needs. And they want us to not gather with individuals outside of our immediate households. And it also means that some things that have been open recently, such as outside dining at bars and restaurants, are no longer going to be open. They're actually going to be closed. Restaurants and food service places will still be in business, but only for takeout and delivery, as opposed to outside dining. They do stress, though, that we should go outside and enjoy different things, such as going to the beach, as long as we do it with those who are in our immediate area or household. There are some links that I've provided here on the screen, which you can use. That'll take you directly to the information where you can find out more about California's regional stay-at-home order. You can also locate the status of activities in your California county, which you're located in, through various links as well. And we'll make sure we provide those to you after attending this webinar here today. California also has a general travel advisory. They recommend against non-essential travel. And when you're traveling, if it is non-essential, they recommend that you self-quarantine for 14 days. So if you go to Nevada, for example, and visit for a while, when you come back to California, they want you to self-quarantine for 14 days, meaning they want you to generally stay at home, in your household and not, interact except for essential needs. So it's very similar to the regional stay-at-home order that California has currently.
May I just say one thing, Kelly, before you move on?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think this is the time to pay close attention to what's coming out from the state and also from the county about health issues. If you can check your whatever news source that you go to on a regular basis to keep abreast of what's happening. As you know, the number of positive cases is rising and it's becoming very difficult out there. So we would encourage you, if you don't have to travel, please think twice. If you don't have to travel, please don't. And please stay with your immediate family. Please don't go and visit a lot of friends and do things, because there is a lot of risk. We all know that the vaccine is out, as you probably read in the paper today. The first vaccination was given to a 90-year-old grandmother in the United Kingdom. So that's really exciting. And hopefully the vaccinations will be available for us. But please continue to stay safe, wear your mask, use social distancing, and be cautious about when you have to go out. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are a lot of states. All the states across the United States and counties will have their own, public health department, and that public health department, like the California Department of Public Health or the Riverside County Department of Public Health, is where you can find a lot of information about all of these stay-at-home orders and different businesses which are closed or open. There's also a neat little tool on the California COVID-19 website. You can actually insert your county, and then you can pull up a list of what's open and what's not open around you. I know many of you are in Riverside County, but a lot of you are in other counties as well. So you can utilize that tool to see what's open and what's not open. Okay. We're going to talk very briefly about travel restrictions. And one of the things that we wanted to let you know is that a lot of the travel restrictions that were in place previously are still currently in place. There are different areas where you can actually go and review these travel restrictions. There's a place on the CDC website, and there's also a website on NASA, their COVID-19 website, and they have a list of all the travel restrictions that are currently in place. So those travel restrictions which have been in place have not yet gone away. So we wanted to remind everyone that they were still there and in place. And as Michael mentioned, we generally don't recommend traveling this time because of the surge in COVID-19 cases, the travel restrictions, and changing government guidance. If you have to travel, make sure you review all the travel restrictions in place, consult with your home country consulate or embassy or the county or state of your destination about any travel restrictions before going to that area. All right. Does anybody else have anything to add about traveling and travel restrictions? Okay, if not, we'll move forward to the next slide. The next slide deals with the winter 2021 quarter. We had a lot of questions about the winter 2021 quarter, whether or not classes would be online, and if we have any government guidance for the 2021 quarter yet. So we wanted to let all of you know that the winter 2021 quarter classes have been announced by UCR. So the classes will be largely online with hybrid classes offered for those who may be required to take such a course. And we also wanted to let you know that the Student Exchange and Visitor Information System has not yet issued their guidance for the winter 2021 quarter. It has not been released yet, okay? So because that guidance has not yet been released, we want you all to know that we're doing our best to work with the guidance that we have from the fall 2020 quarter. And we'll be able to answer some more specific questions about that as we move towards the questions and answers as we proceed with this webinar.
All right.
Okay.
And we know that it's very frustrating for you. It's very frustrating for us because we're just not getting any information. I understand that a letter was written by the UC system today to Department of Homeland Security, basically demanding that we get some sort of guidance about what the registration requirement is going to be for the winter term. So far as we know, if we don't hear anything, then we will continue on with reading the guidance as it was issued before. So we won't see any changes there. But we could very well see changes coming very, very late in December, perhaps even after the university closes. And if that happens, then we'll certainly give you that information as soon as we can and share that with you and try and explain things if it's complicated, because sometimes what they do is they make things very complicated. But as things stand right now, we are just looking to continue the practices, the requirements as we understand them for the fall term. Okay, thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the pre-submitted questions. And then after we move through those, you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. Okay. So the first pre-submitted question is, will there be a travel ban since COVID-19 cases has increased? Well, as we mentioned earlier, the travel restrictions that were in place previously are still in place. And we advise that you just keep an eye on all of the websites that we have mentioned, and that we will make sure that you get the links to as well before you travel. We do recommend that you don't travel if you don't have to. It's best just to stay in place currently.
And thank you, Kelly. That's absolutely right. That's great guidance. Also, just remember, if things do get worse, there may be additional bans that pop up. So do keep aware of what's going on and go to whatever news source that you go to get information and be informed. That will be the best thing during this time. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Well, the next one is, I'm here on an F1 visa from India. Do I need to enroll in an in-person seminar for winter 2021? Does anyone want to take a stab at answering that question?
I will.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead,
But I
Michael.
want to give, does anyone else want to talk about that? Yeah, this is an area where we just don't know. You entered the United States on an F1 visa, you had an initial I-20, let's say you did that in the fall, and then you had to have that hybrid course, which was a requirement. Any new students coming in with an initial I-20 could not take 100% online courses. But now you're a continuing student and your I-20 no longer says initial, it says continuing, and you are a continuing student. So we know that the guidance so far has said if you're a continuing student that you may take courses 100% online. So that's how things stand right now. But we can't promise you that that's what things will be next week or the week after. So that's why we're really trying to put some pressure on the government to get an answer on that. But if we work on the assumption that things are not going to change, then you would not have to enroll for an in-person seminar for winter 2021, as long as the guidance doesn't change. So that's unfortunately the kind of the information that we can give you at this point.
Right. And if the guidance stays the same, if you're a new student or a current student who's coming for the first time with a new initial attendance I-20, and you're planning to travel to the United States, then the recommendation would be to enroll in one of those in-person seminars because that's likely to be the guidance. However, as Michael mentioned, we don't know what it's going to be yet, and we will let you know as soon as we know. All right, the next question on the list is travel by road okay? So that's a very interesting question. I think that travel in terms of the stay-at-home regional order is like traveling, by road is okay, but they want you to stay at home, as much as possible and just engage in essential activities. You can travel like to the beach to be outside and to get exercise and things like that, as long as you stay within your kind of household or group. Does anyone have any other guidance to add on traveling by road?
Right. So I do, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is, it depends on what the question means. If the question means, is it okay to travel by road? Does that mean, am I allowed to do that? Then yes, there is no law or restriction in place that I'm aware of that would prevent you from traveling. But if the question is it okay in that it's safe? That's a totally different issue. And I know that there have been lots of issues in recent weeks on various news sites about whether it's better to fly if you have to travel or whether it's better to take a car and the risks that you face each way. So inform yourself if you have to travel, particularly for long distances, and make sure that it's something that really would be something you need to do. But make sure that you follow all the guidelines and stay safe. So that's what we really want, is we want to see you when the winter term begins, safe here taking your classes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have anything to add to that? Okay, great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next question is, could I stay in my home country as an F1 international student until the pandemic calms down? Would anyone like to answer that question?
I can answer to that question.
Okay.
So if you're currently outside of the US and you've been continuing being enrolled in the classes, you can continue to take those classes as an active student. But if you are leaving US and taking classes from overseas, and then you will need to come and talk to us. I mean, you can make an appointment for the Zoom, and then we'll like to set up the appointment with you, and then we'll guide you for those details.
That's a very good answer, Jenny. Yeah, because it will vary depending on your situation.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm. Thank you. The next question is, are international students required to have in-person attendance for the 2021 winter quarter, irrespective of their majors? I think that's a question that we've touched on, already. If the guidance stays the same and you're a continuing student with, an F1 visa in the United States, we do not think you will need to have in-person attendance for the 2021 winter quarter. However, if you are a new student who will be entering for the first time with a new initial attendance I-20, or a current student for the fall quarter who has not yet gotten an I-20, you will probably be required to have one course which is hybrid, meaning it has an in-person component. That doesn't mean you need to be on campus all the time. It just means there will be some components which will be in person. And again, this all depends on the guidance that the Student Exchange and Visitor Program releases for the winter 2021 quarter. And we do not have that guidance released yet, but we're hopeful that it will be released soon.
And these requirements, SEVP has never tied the guidance to a particular major, right? So this is a requirement of any student in F1 status. So the major issue is not the concern here. It's all students have to do this.
Exactly. And then the next question that follows is, what courses are available which comply with these requirements in the field of mechanical engineering? There are certain courses that your department has developed which will comply with these requirements. And I think you can just reach out to your department directly and they will let you know which course that you need to enroll in. Michael, do you remember what the name of the course was?
No, I can't remember that.
Okay, there is a certain course which has been, created, which a lot of international students would attend, depending on, your department. But if you reach out directly to your department, they should have that information for you.
The CBNS 190, I believe.
Okay.
For all non-business majors.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah. All right. And the next question is, what, if any, letters or documents does the department need to provide to grad students who will have a new F1 visa in winter 21?
I can take this. So for new incoming students with the initial I-20, since we are still going off of the fall guidance and expecting that you would have that requirement, what I've been doing when issuing the I-20s, I've been putting that hybrid remark on the I-20s, and then asking students to contact their department for a letter that states, this is the hybrid course that the student will be taking. This is when the first session will meet. And that letter template, again, it's not required. We do recommend it to show that you have a hybrid component. And that letter template, most departments should have it. It's a similar template from last quarter. So if any departments don't have it, they can reach out to the ISS office for that template.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. All right. So let's move on to the pre-submitted questions. What travel date should I select to reach in California, since my program starts on January 4th, 2021?
I can take this one too.
Okay.
So again, as a new student with your initial I-20, you need to arrive within the 30 days before your program start date. So if you look on your I-20, you'll see that date printed for you, the earliest date of arrival. which for winter students, I believe was December 5th. So you can arrive anytime from that estimated date of arrival to the program start date. We don't recommend coming much later since there's always a chance that you could be turned away at the border. So if you're not able to come by the start of the quarter, please reach out to me. And then kind of moving into the second question as well, the campus will be closed for winter break for those 2 quarters. You do not need to arrive to campus before the winter break. It's just so you're aware that most campus offices won't be open during that time. So if you need holds removed or other things taken care of, you may not be able to hear back from those departments, but the International Affairs Office does have an emergency phone line. If you don't have that number, then we can share that with you. That phone will be open if you do have an emergency or a travel issue during that winter break.
Thanks, Jessie. And the next question, I believe we addressed earlier, but the question is, are there any type of quarantine guidelines since I will be landing in the United States in December 2020? There's no specific quarantine guidelines for essential activities, attending higher education of learning, but there is general recommendations that you kind of quarantine, self-quarantine for 14 days, in your home and just kind of keep to yourself. That's really the guideline for everybody in California right now, is just to avoid all non-essential outings currently and just go out for essential outings and keep to yourself or to your current household. So there's actually a tip that the state of California has a PDF file which gives you self-quarantine guidance, and we can make sure we get that out to all of you.
Kelly, since this is a good time, there was a question that popped up in the Q&A box and says, I am a continuing student and traveled out of California in spring 2020 and plan to return to campus housing for winter 2021. What is the protocol on campus to return? Do we have information about any specific requirements that the university has when students return?
So if you are living in campus housing, right, or apartments, they are requiring, especially within the residence halls, you to have a negative COVID-19 test before you actually move in. So that is something that you would need to be aware of if you're returning to campus housing. There's also another question that I know was asked in the pre-submitted questions about whether or not the campus was offering COVID-19 testing for those who are living on campus. And the answer is yes. There is required COVID-19 testing that you do have to get if you are living in the campus residence halls or are on campus routinely on a regular basis. And if you're a graduate student, for example, who's on campus routinely for a regular basis in a lab, you should speak with your supervisor, your department, about how to, get that required testing. Okay. And if you're a new student who's incoming for the winter quarter, they'll be giving you that essential information that you need. The next question is, do we need to show any kind of documents as asked about mode of instruction at UCR when you're at immigration? So I'm assuming this might mean the port of entry when you're entering the United States. And what I would say is that if they ask about it, you can show your letter or your I-20. If they don't ask about it, there's no need to show anything if you're talking about when you enter the United States through the port of entry. Does anybody else have any guidance?
For new students, I would just remind them to, in the pre-arrival webinar, we did go through some slides about what to expect in detail at the port of entry, which documents to have with you. So I believe that recording is posted in the news section of the International Affairs website for anyone that would like a refresher.
Yes, it is there. Thanks, Jessie. The next question is, could I get a new I-20 or certificate explaining for the delay since I cannot come to US at winter quarter? I would actually ask this individual to reach out to us to schedule an appointment so that we can understand your specific situation so that we can give you an informed answer. Okay. You may need a new one, indeed, if you're not coming, but it's important for us to look at your specific situation before we give you an answer, okay?
And just as a general comment, if you're ever uncertain about your documents, if your documents are up to date, if it's missing anything, then please feel free to contact us, international students at ucr.edu, and we'll be able to answer your questions, because it's better to take a little precaution before you travel and make sure everything is okay than wind up at the border and then potentially being put into secondary inspection and then having to sit there for a couple hours until Customs and Border Protection is able to figure things out. So please, if you have questions about your documents, contact us and let us know. Just please be aware that after the 5 p.m. on the Friday, the 18th of December through 8 o'clock in the morning on the 4th of January, 2021, the university will be closed during that time. So there'll be limited service, but you always have access to the emergency phone if you have, truly questions that are emergencies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Michael. All right. I think we actually answered the first one already about COVID-19 testing. If you're going to live on campus, there is regular COVID-19 testing, which is expected of you. If you have the UCR's health insurance, you can also work with the UCR Health Center to get COVID-19 testing as well. The next question is, could you please provide me with a recording of the Highlander Orientation 2020? If you're referring to the Highlander Orientation for transfer students, I don't know that they actually recorded that orientation. So I don't think a recording for that orientation is available. If you were a transfer student who was new for this incoming winter quarter, you would have been required to attend that orientation in order to get your advising and your overview of the orientation. I will reach out to Student Life to see if they recorded it, and then I'll let you know if they have a recording of any of the sessions of the Highlander Orientation. We will be recording our upcoming International Student Orientation for winter 2021, and we have a variety of other recordings that are on our website too, which can assist all of the new incoming and current international students who are here at UCR. Okay, shall we move on to the next question? The next one is, I'll be receiving a new I-20 for winter 2020 as I'll be graduating from undergraduate school and will become a graduate student. Do I need any on-campus classes? Also, can I travel in and out of country, or is there any restriction? Is a good question. And again, that's going to depend on the winter 2021 guidance, which we don't currently have yet. I'm assuming that this is a student who's currently in the United States, who's changing level from being an undergraduate student to a graduate student, in which case they'll have to have a change of level, I-20, which if we're going by the fall 2020 guidance means that if you do leave the United States and then you return, you would have to have one in-person class. However, if you remain in the United States, you're not required to have any in-person classes. That's how it would be interpreted for the fall 2020 guidance. And we have to wait and see what happens for winter 2021. I invite you to email international students at ucr.edu to connect with an advisor so that they can look more closely at your specific situation.
Also wanted to add, for this scenario also applies to transfer students who is transferring from a community college or different university. And this is going to be your first quarter. We advise you not to travel out of the country in order not to take any hyper classes. If you're going to be in the country and you're transferring your record, then you do not need to take a hyper class.
Mhm. That's correct. And again, if you don't have to travel, you know, our recommendation is to not travel during this time. Okay. The next question is, I'm traveling to Riverside on the 12th of December from India. What can I expect at the port of entry at the San Francisco International Airport? Would anyone like to answer this question?
I guess I can take it.
Okay.
At any port of entry, when you're entering the US, they mainly ask you for your personal documents, a valid passport, visa, and an I-20. Make sure your I-20 has a valid travel signature on second page that's valid for a year. If you're a new student with initial I-20, you do not need the travel signature on the second page. This is for new students, but continuing students, you should make sure that you have a travel signature on the second page. If you don't, you can email our email address and request for a travel signature on your I-20, and we'll email you the electronic I-20 so you can print it out and bring it with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generally, if you're going through the port of entry too, they're going to ask for you to, you know, briefly inspect your documents. And if they have any further questions, there are some times which they may move you over to what they call a secondary inspection center. And they may go into a little bit more detail while you're waiting there in the secondary inspection. But in general, they'll just take a few minutes to review your documents. You'll answer the questions and you'll move through customs. Like Lisa said, right now, electronic I-20s are accepted and signed. So if you're an F1 student who has an I-20, then electronic documents are acceptable. However, if you're a J student who needs to travel, you will need to get a hard wet copy of your original DS 2019 in order to travel. So just keep that in mind if any of you are J students out there.
I may just say a few things about general comments about the border. I'm sure that all of you have heard this before, but it's never bad to review this. You may be getting off an airplane and it may be just been hectic and people are a bit frazzled and everything. Just remember that when you go to, when you're standing in front of the Customs and Border Protection officer, you want to be friendly, you want to be polite. Even if the person is maybe not the nicest person, and sometimes remember that this is a frontline position for people in CBP working at the ports of entry, and sometimes they're not as knowledgeable about all of the status as they would have to be for that. But I think that, you know, just keep your temper, don't get upset, be very calm, be polite, and just answer the question that's asked. I think sometimes it's a little bit, you're nervous when they start asking you questions. It's a normal reaction. And sometimes when people get nervous, they tend to talk and say more than they need to say. So just kind of as a basic rule of thumb, answer the question, don't volunteer any information that wasn't asked for, okay? Mm-hmm. If you feel that you were mistreated at the border, the best thing would be to not react to that and try to get in. And then once you get in, we can assist you with filing a complaint if you feel that there was some sort of inappropriate treatment at the border. But if that's not going to work, you do have the right always at the border to ask to speak to a supervisor. This may, of course, slow everything down. As Kelly said, they may put you in secondary inspection where they'll have you sit until the supervisor is available to come talk to you. And also, from a psychological point of view, if you're talking to someone and say, I want to speak to your boss, right? That person may become defensive, hopefully not aggressive, but it could lead to a situation that would be uncomfortable. So you certainly do have that right. And if you want to take advantage of it, then you can. But just consider that the most important thing is for you to get into the United States. That's what we really want to have happen for you. So whatever you need to do to get into the United States, and then if you want to come talk to us, we can help you about reviewing what happened there and see what steps can be taken. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Are students allowed to take instructions remotely this quarter? Okay. Are fall guidelines still in place that inhibit students from taking completely remote course? Okay. So I think we've covered some of this. We don't have the guidance yet for the winter 2021 quarter. We know it's really frustrating that we don't have those answers yet. And hopefully we'll get those answers soon. What we're doing now is going with what we know from the fall 2020 quarter. And so current students who are continuing, who are inside of the United States, who've had an I-20, since this pandemic started in March, should be allowed to continue to take instruction remotely. And we're moving forward with that unless we hear something differently with the new guidance that comes out. All right, does anybody have anything to add to that? Okay, so that would be our last pre-submitted questions. We can now take any questions that you might have in the chat box or the Q&A box.
We would prefer if you would put your questions in Q&A, but there is one question that came into the chat box. We talked about a little bit about this, but I think this is good just for a review. We have a new grad student coming in for winter 21. He was deferred from the fall, and he attended his visa interview on the 20th of November. Unfortunately, was hit with administrative processing and is waiting now for that to be resolved. He wants to know, can he come to campus after the start date of January 4th? So for example, he gets, the student says that if the student gets the visa on the 7th of January, would be able to get here by the 9th of January, would that be okay? And what steps should the student take under those kinds of circumstances?
Well, I think you need to keep us in your department apprised of what's going on with your administrative clearance. I think that if it's just 2 days, it will depend on whether you're, we'll need to consult with you and with the department in terms of how we move forward. If you get it approved on January 7th and you can be here by January 9th, I say that's pretty good timing. And that, we would hope that you would be able to come in and take advantage of everything that's going on, but it'll all depend on the specifics. So make sure you keep us informed, keep your graduate department informed of what's going on. And we can guide you from there. It'll also depend on what the new guidance says when it comes out for winter 2021. When I'm saying that, I think you can definitely enter at one point or another. It's just that it depends on when that happens in the quarter and what we'll need to do with regards to your I-20. So a lot of it depends on when it happens. So keep in close touch with us and we'll be able to guide you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So I think that's all the questions we have in the chat box. So now we'll go to the Q&A box. So the first question is, will they be able to find a recording of this webinar? The answer is yes, we're recording it and it will be on our website. If you have problems finding it, just send us a quick email and we'll send you the link where you can go for that. So this will be available for you to, if you weren't able to, friends of yours weren't able to attend, they'd like to listen to it, then they certainly can do that. Now we have another question. It says, I'm a continuing F1 grad student. I transferred to UCR in the fall and am already in the US, but did not move to Riverside. Just in case the government does not extend the exceptions about online study that they introduced temporarily in the summer, will I have to move to Riverside in December, or is there another way around it? I'm just trying to get clear about what exactly the worst case scenario looks like and if I should start looking for apartments, etc. Thanks.
That's a good question. And I think we have to wait for the winter 2021 guidance. But as you know, most of the classes on campus will be offered online, through distance learning, but it will all depend on what the guidance says. And we don't know what that guidance is yet, but we'll give you that information as soon as we do know what it is.
Yeah.
If you are required to attend an in-person class and you have to be here to attend that in-person class, then you would need to move so that you would be able to attend that in-person class.
I think this is, we're already in the worst case scenario because we just don't know. Certainly, I would not recommend that you go out and sign a lease right now in expectation that you would have to move to Riverside to take an in-person class. Because even though I think with certain leasing companies, you might have a short period of time that you can back out of the lease with no penalty or maybe a small penalty, but you would have to take a very, very close look at the lease and make sure what it says so that you don't wind up having to pay thousands of dollars in rent for a place that you never stayed in. So this is really the worst case scenario, is that you can't plan. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is for you, of course, but it is also very frustrating for us because we just don't know what things are going to look like. And I hope that this letter will get some response from Homeland Security so that we can finally get the guidance we need. But that's not a very good answer. I'm sorry, but I would say protect yourself. Don't sign any kind of thing that would commit you. And then you would have to turn around and find out that you don't need to come here, you can't come here. And then you've got this liability. That would be a really, really awful thing. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about that?
No, that's a really good point. Yeah. Don't make any moves yet before you, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have another question in the Q&A box. It says, as a continuing, this person is a continuing student and I'm currently staying outside the US. I left the US in October. Do I have to return to campus in winter 2021?
If you're currently studying outside the United States, you have a continued attendance active I-20 and the guidance stays the same as it is now. From an immigration perspective, you don't have to return to campus in winter 2021. However, if you are a graduate student who's a teaching assistant or research assistant, make sure you reach out to your department and the graduate division to see if there's any other restrictions that may be in play.
Right, I do want to kind of stress a point that Kelly has made several times, is it's so important to keep the communication open. Make sure you contact us so we know what's going on. Please contact your advisor, contact your department so that they know what's going on with you. If we know what's happening, then that we can try and assist you and make sure that everything is done for you that will make your stay here at the beginning, go as smoothly as possible. But if you don't let us know, there may be no time for us to react if something happens. So please do keep that channel of communication open with us and let us know what's happening, and we'll be able to advise you and hopefully be able to make things as smooth as possible for you in this rather crazy time. Okay. Okay, if there's any other questions, please go ahead and feel free to type it in the Q&A box. We'll wait a minute to see if we have any more questions. While we're waiting to see, does anyone on the panel have any thoughts on any topic that they'd like to share real quick?
One thing I want to add on top of Director Michael said, just keep in touch with us. It's very important. I think it's. I mean, I can keep stressing that out how important that is, especially so next winter 2021, the registration for your civics record will be starting from the beginning of the winter quarter start date. So if you have any changes, either you are the continuing students or new students, please contact us so we can make a necessary adjustment in your record and we can help out all the questions you have.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny. That's very important. Okay, any other comments from panelists?
I have one. So for continuing students, we release an international weekly newsletter every Wednesday. In there, we will we will give you a lot of immigration updates that might be very relevant to you. And so if there are any changes within the immigration climate, we'll definitely let you know. So please keep a lookout for those newsletters every Wednesday.
But Heidi, will the newsletter be sent out during those 2 weeks when the university is closed?
So that's a really good point. So we will update you up until, the week of December 18. And then after that, the university will be closed.
Okay.
So we won't be sending out the weekly then, but I'm sure, we'll keep an eye on the guidance and if there's any updates to be made, we'll get the information to you.
So we're still in the office for another week and a half, so you can still get us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And remember, there's always the emergency phone number. We'll try and assist you as best we can if something happens during that time.
Yeah. And I'll be looking and monitoring for the guidance as well. So
Okay, I see we don't have any more questions either in chat or Q&A. Does anyone on the panel have any final thoughts? Oh, okay, so we do have another question in the question answer box. Any steps to follow after reaching Riverside?
I can answer to that question. If this is, I assume that this is the new students for the winter 2021. If this is a new student, you probably receive the email from Jessie that asking you to fill out the personal record form and then send it to my email address, jenny.shit@ucr.edu. And then once we finish your check-in process, I can update your I-20 if you need a new I-20. And then, and then you can register the classes and all sorts of things. So please check your email box. And also we have information as Jessie just shared in the chat box for the post-arrival information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and go ahead and feel free to, schedule a time to meet with one of us so that we can, see how you're doing, where you are, and just say hello.
Okay, we have another question in chat. Is there any mail ID to contact during the break period? So any, I assume email address is what they're saying. Is there any way that they can send a message during that time?
You can send an email message to international students at ucr.edu, but we won't actively be checking that account necessarily. And when you get a response to your email message, it will direct you as to what you need to do in order to, call our emergency phone to get the information that you need.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Good, thank you. And then we have another in question and answer. I am a current grad student at UCR. I plan to fly back to my country in late December. Are there any restrictions about how long I can stay outside the US?
So could you repeat that one more time? It's a
Yeah,
current
sure,
grad
sure.
student who's here at
Yeah,
UC?
grad
Mhm.
student and planning to leave the country and go back home at the end of December. Are there any restrictions about how long the student can stay outside the United States?
Well, I think that's going to depend on what the winter 2021 guidance says in terms of staying outside of the United States. You know, generally, if you're in your research units and you don't have any courses to take, then I would recommend talking with your department about that and talking with them, especially if you're going to be a teaching assistant or a graduate assistant. But if you're not going to be a teaching assistant or a graduate student and you want to, take your classes overseas for, for an extended amount of time, as the guidance stands for the fall 2020 quarter, you would be able to do that. We just have to wait and see what that winter 2021 guidance says.
Right. And it also depends, as Kelly has said, whether you want to keep your CVIS record active or not. So there are a lot of things that, for those kinds of questions, it would be best to send us an email directly with your specific concerns, and we can answer that based on your specific situation. So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So in chat, we had another comment. Student from India unfortunately can't make international calls, so you can use follow the advice that Kelly gave you. Send a message to international students with an S at the end at ucr.edu, and you'll get an automatically generated response to that will give you information about how you can contact us if it's an emergency. But unfortunately, we won't be monitoring emails at that time, and if it's not possible to make a phone call, I would go ahead and send the message there, and we may very well be able to take a look every now and then. But if it's urgent and needs to be dealt with right on the spot, it would be best if you could call the emergency number. That would be the fastest way to get in touch with us. Okay, one more question in the Q&A box. Can check-in be done from a different state in the US other than California for new students?
Do you want to take that one, Jenny?
Yes, absolutely. You can send us the check-in form from any places in the United States, wherever you stay. You can send it to my email address, as I mentioned earlier.
All right. Are there any more questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box? As I'm unable to see them right now from my computer. That's why I'm asking.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We answered all of them.
Okay. Well, if so, I want to thank everybody for attending the town hall today. As Michael said earlier, we are going to, schedule them on a more regular basis for the upcoming winter 2021 quarter. And we'll be actively looking for the winter 2021 guidance so we can give you that information as soon as possible when we have it. Thank you all for joining us here today. Make sure you join us at our virtual Zoom accounts or email international students at ucr.edu to get answers to your specific questions.
Right. So I know I speak for everybody on the panel. Stay safe. For those of you who are here and continuing, good luck with your finals. Make A+, make everyone proud. For our new students coming in, we look forward to seeing you in January in 2021. I can't believe it's going to be 2021. But have a wonderful break. Stay safe. And any way that we can help you, we will try and do that. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right.
Everyone.
Bye.
Whatever time you're in.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.